Hi, my name is Henry Sullivan.
And I'm Laurel Cummings.
And today we're going to be doing an unboxing and build of an Ender-3 3D printer. So first things first, it comes very, very neatly packed with a bunch of padding just to make sure everything is going to be safe and sound. So let's go ahead and remove all the padding and bring out the first layer. I'll take that from you.
Okay, thank you. Instructions right on top.
A nice, lovely build plate for our printer.
This looks like
your control
panel. Yeah, I was gonna get there.
All right, here's our main base with our extruder. We'll take the power supply as well. Always be knolling. I'm going to try and lay it out best as I can.
I don't know what those binder clips are for.
To hold down the print bed.
Ah, that'll do it. Now I'm gonna guess this is our filament, or no, or those are.
This is our filament feeder, and it's got our stoppers on there as well. All right, so that's layer number one. Ooh. But it goes deeper. Remove the foam.
Spudgers, always need a spudger. Printer cable, love it. Bracket.
We'll get to it later.
Another stepper, more metal. Bag full of stuff.
Bag full of stuff, number one.
Bag full of stuff, number two.
Now the great thing about this printer is it comes with all the tools necessary in order to build it.
That's nice.
Yeah.
What is this?
Filament holder.
Yeah, makes sense.
And then our roller coaster slides.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's grab the instructions anyway and just make sure that we've got all of the pieces.
Step one, we need itty bitty screws, or bolts technically, and some washers and the metal that you are unpacking.
You've got your base.
Is this the screw?
That is your hardware.
Sweet.
Okay. So what we're going to need is we're going to need the M545, two washers and two screws per leg. You're going to go in from the underneath. There's a lot of help online on YouTube and Google if you run into any problems, but I only had to back tread maybe 3 times just to make sure that I got everything right. There you go. You can go ahead and then screw them in now. Overall, it was a pretty easy experience, especially when you end up with this. And now I made this a couple of days ago, and I've already started doing modifications to it. Now we can attach our power supply. So you can just insert these screws through. Okay, I'm holding in place.
Thank you.
Okay, next thing's next, we're going to mount our screen.
Great.
We're going to mount it right on the front of this bracket here.
What size do I use?
I've got them already prepped for you.
Aww.
Once again, it's much easier to get the thread started by hand and then come in with your Allen wrench afterwards. So that was step number 2. We've got the power supply and the screen mounted, and now we're going to do now we're going to do our limiting switch, and we're going to plop that on this leg over here. And lucky enough, it already comes with the hardware already in there. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that we work it all the way down to the groove here, and they get stuck with this end point down here, and then we can just loosen those off and then tighten them back up, and they should secure themselves in place. And you should be able to use your existing Allen wrench. Of looseness where they will actually be able to lock back in. This can be a little bit tricky. So next is we are going to do the stepper motor. So we've got this guy here, the M418P hardware that we had, which is over here somewhere. Here we go. And we're just going to screw that into place on the same arm that you just screwed that limiting switch. This is going to enable your Z or the extruder to go up and down, and you want to mount that straight on the top of that stepper motor.
Is this maybe called like a drive shaft?
That could be something that it could be called. I've heard it been called the screw thingy before as well. Maybe on the other side of you want the cable to be on the inside.
Okay, let's see.
All right.
That'll do it.
Everything spins, everything turns. It's off at a wee angle, but that should be fine. It should straighten out once we pop the gantry on the top. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this. That's all we need to do with that as of right now. We can bring it back in a second. We need this. We need some hardware.
Which ones?
Let's see, it's the M4 and 16s.
M416s.
Superb. And then we need one of these, which I don't know the name of, but it helps feed the filament to the extruder. Screw that into place.
This one?
There.
Right.
Yeah. And we are looking for the we're looking for this bar, not this one, because this has only got 4 holes, 2 on each side. This has got 3 on each side, so 6 in total. So you're looking for this one.
So these are the two. These are 2 servos that will drive the X and Y.
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
This is our belt, because this is all belt driven, apart from the screw thing. So what we're going to do is, or what Laurel's going to do is, it's going to feed it round.
Okay, around the screw things.
Now you see that little gear on the inside here? You want to feed it around there so it comes out here and goes right round the beam, with the teeth facing down.
Down?
And in here.
Oh, I see. So,
Like,
so you want to go down like this?
Might be easier just to
I think
dangle. The most important thing is to get it round that teeth little gear, getting the gantry and everything like that set up. But the next thing is we're going to bring back our 3D printer, like so. Do it exactly like that, because if you don't, you're going to run into some issues. Now, what you want to do is we're going to get this kind of not mounted on here per se, but we're going to get this mounted onto our beam that we've got going over the top.
Gotcha.
It's important to do this step first. Otherwise, if you put the other bracket on instead, you're not going to be able to get this on. So you're going to run into some issues. So with this facing up like this,
Okay.
yeah,
Sis?
like this, this is going to be facing down. So
Do you need to go down this
I need
track?
a bit of that.
Okay.
I'm going to feed that over like so.
Okay.
A little bit more. I'm trying real hard here, as you can see.
Your efforts are noted.
There we go. Cool. And now I can hook this in right here. You're basically hooking in the belt onto the 3D printer nozzle. So you're attaching it basically, so then it can actually be moved.
Now, my first concern is tensioning, right?
Yeah.
Do I need to hook this in?
No. So the tensioning steps comes later.
Okay.
We're actually going to add something onto the end of this that pulls this belt nice and taut. So
Gotcha.
we don't need to worry about tensioning on the 3D printed head.
Very cool.
It's a little bit finicky, but you're basically hooking in the belt onto the 3D printer nozzle. So you're attaching it basically, so then it can actually be moved. So next step, we've got one more bracket, which is this guy here, and we're going to attach it to the end of our top gantry part.
Great.
We're going to do that by lining up this rounded over bolt into the nice little divoted space on our beam. Now you need to make sure that your bracket has a little cutout on the top end of the extruder. So the extruder's coming down where the angled piece is. All of the filament is being fed in with this nice angled bracket coming in from the side. If it's looking like this, you got it the wrong way around, or you need to move this onto the other side, or maybe this is upside down. So be careful of this step. So that's looking pretty good. The only thing that if I move the belt, it moves the head, lovely jubbly. Although the belt's still pretty loose. So next step, we're going to tension that up.
Hooray!
And there is a belt tensioner.
Is it that guy?
It is. What we need to do now is we don't have any more screw holes on this side, so we've got those little brackets that actually slip inside of this beam. That's going to help tighten down the bolt. Now this can be a little bit tricky. The thing I found to be the easiest was actually sliding those in first, and then getting the belt over the top of the wheel that's going to be used to tighten everything down, and then screwing the screws in. So once you've got it there in place, it's kind of good to have a friend come along. I'll pull it nice and tight, and then you can tighten down those bolts. Just make sure you get that's lined up, and then we can start to screw it in as you lower it.
Lined up with what?
This needs to line up with the inset screw right here.
Oh, I see that.
Yeah, there you go. Cool.
Okay. So you kind of have to make sure that these
Yeah, you have to make sure all the bearings and the wheels line up. And then look at that.
Oh, look at that. It travels.
Da-da-da. Then we can make sure that we've got things in the right place. If we push all of this to the end and you hear that click, it's in its limiter. It's moving all the way down here. Great. Now on to step 10, which is let's lower this down a little bit, just get it out of the way. And then we're going to attach this to the top. So we need the M5 times 25 with four washers. There we go. Nice little thing you can do now is actually insert this into there.
Look at that.
It's looking like a 3D printer already.
I'm gonna guess it goes like this.
Yep, and you need 4 of those.
Yeah, I'm just getting the 2 outside ones nice and finger tight before
Brilliant.
I do the rest.
Now the Ender-3 spares no expense, so it's got some nice plastic caps to go at the end of these bars. All right, so that's actually the most of it built. The only thing we really have left to do is to install the filament holder. We need the M5 times 8.
Great.
So start with. Okay. I'll drop 2 in. All right, so now this can go on here, and that just screws in to place.
No, this is stationary, and then the roll gets to free roll on it.
Yep,
Sweet.
exactly. So the build is done. Everything has been bolted in, everything has been put together, everything is squared away for this to be ready to print. The next thing and the last thing that we need to do is plug everything in.
Okay.
So let's spin it around. Let's do the back side first.
Okay.
Now, there is a cable coming out of our power supply, and there's only one cable that it can plug into, so let's plug that bad boy in.
I'm going to slide it underneath everything to hopefully not get snared. All right.
Cheekily plug in something over here. There's a cable that can only really be plugged into the limiting switch down here in this corner, right around this one.
Okay, cool. That's what I was wondering about, because that seems like a weird stretch.
We're missing one thing.
Build plate.
Build plate, and we've got one more cable popping out the front.
Oh.
Now this cable here powers and controls the control panel in the front.
Okay.
And there are 3 plugs that you can plug it into. It's kind of hard for me to show you them, but you want to plug them into the one that's closest to the build plate.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. There we go.
Sweet.
Cool. That's the last step. Now let's get this build plate on. Let's plug it in and let's do some prints.
And so you're just using these to hold them on?
Yeah. Let's do is grab some filament, do some bed leveling. Now you want to cut it at a 45-degree angle. All right, so now before you start to insert anything and to jam anything anywhere, what you want to do is you want to go onto the menu. You want to go all the way down to prepare, and then scroll down further, and then do preheat for PLA, and then preheat for PLA. And it's going to get everything up to temperature. So it's going to get the extruder up to temperature, so then we can actually force feed this in and hopefully push it out a little bit to the point where we see some plastic coming out of the extruding nozzle. All right, so now that we know the filament's coming out of the printer nozzle, we're all good to go. Now, this is the only way I know how to do a bed leveling test. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to prepare. We're going to do auto home, and it's going to home all of the axes. All right, so moving steppers whilst they're powered on is a big no-no.
Yep.
Right? So what you can do is you can move the head when you power it off, and what you're going to do is you're going to move the head forwards and backwards and move the build plate forwards and backwards as well, and make sure that it's at a good level for all the different points of the build plate.
I see.
So we're going to turn it off.
Okay.
Okay, and now if you see how much lower that is.
Yeah.
So you want to go in to the big screws and maybe tighten it up, so then you pull the bed down. And let's do it in 2 stages. Let's go through and maybe get the head about 1 millimeter away from the build plate in all 4 of the corners. And then we'll go in with a piece of paper and try and get it as close as, you basically just want to tighten it to the point where you feel a little bit of friction on the piece of paper.
Yeah.
not a whole lot. You don't want it to be ridiculously close to the build plate. So now we can go to print from TF card. And then there should be a test. I chose the dog, if there was the dog.
TSC.
Yeah, that's the one, the top one. That is basically the setup and the first step to getting your Ender-3 on the way. It's really not that difficult, especially if you don't know anything about 3D printers. Just make sure you follow all of the steps in the instructions, and it's okay. Even somebody who's built one before has to go back and maybe change the way things are screwed in, and we all make mistakes. That's what I'm trying to say. All right, so I've been Henry Sullivan.
I'm Laurel Cummings.
And that was the Ender-3 build with Building Momentum. Stay in touch for more updates.
Keep building. Length beast.
For some weird reason, because they drilled the holes on the wrong side. I'll put it in upside down.